So Android tablets and e-readers come in many shapes and sizes, but very few try to combine the best of both worlds. The Boox Go Color 7 is one of the very few to do this, and I think it does it really well, so let's get into it. If you haven't already, hit subscribe for more content just like this, covering tablets, Android, Wear OS and everything in between. And if you want to go one further, how about joining the channel? You get extra content like free wallpapers. Our latest pack, Moonlight, has been going down a storm. Go check out that join button, hit it, and see what we offer today. The Amazon Kindle might be the biggest seller, but there are lots of other excellent e-readers for you to choose from out there in the world. A fusion of Android and e-reader might not be all that common, save for Onyx and the Boox line of e-tablets though. The Boox Go Color 7 is the latest, and I think it feels like the most obvious step for a tablet maker that wants to court the Kindle crowd. It blends the two distinct ecosystems well, without going too far in any direction. For starters, this isn't a powerful tablet. It actually utilises the Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 processor, which is more commonly associated with low-end Android phones in the past and was actually released way back in 2019. The SoC is paired with just 4GB of RAM and 64GB of onboard storage. Luckily, you can expand that if you want with the dedicated microSD card slot up to 1TB. I think this is perfect though if you have a massive library of ebooks, journals, and even podcasts and audio that you want to take with you and have access to each and every day. Keeping things simple here means you won't attract the crowd that might not want something or want something akin to the Daylight e-paper tablet and end up a little bit disappointed as well. The biggest instant draw of the Boox Go Color 7 for me was the shape and size of it. It's actually a slightly boxy e-reader with a ledge that you can grip and handle comfortably. I'm actually instantly struck with how much nicer it is to hold than my aging Kindle Paperwhite. At the rear there's a soft PU leather finish that reminds me of classic bound books, and as designs go it's plain, simple, and at least as far as I'm concerned, effective. This e-reader also measures in at 7 inches, as you probably would have guessed from the name of it. I'm told that the panel utilises a Kaleido 3 1200 glass screen, which means absolutely nothing, and to be honest it feels smooth like a polished pebble under your finger, but I do think it can attract fingerprints and grease pretty easily. If it weren't for the exceptional magnetic flip case, which is an extra option that you may have to purchase separately, I would carry a microfiber cleaning cloth to keep on top of those greasy smears that this seems to amass throughout the day when you're using it and swiping and tapping at the screen. You may be aware that e-ink panels are never quite as detailed as LCD or OLED screens. That said, this 1680 by 1264 pixel resolution has a couple of important distinctions to note. When you're reading or watching something that is explicitly black and white, the Go Color 7 display reverts to 300 ppi. When you consume content with colours attached, it dips slightly to 150 ppi. I figured this might be a deal breaker, which is why I wanted to let you know, but I honestly didn't really notice that often, or at least notice this dip, until I put it side by side with my Kindle Paperwhite. The limit of 4,096 colours does mean that some content can look a bit off or washed out compared to any modern smartphone with the full sRGB gamut. It is a muted look, but it doesn't really detract from the quality and most importantly, the experience of reading your favourite ebooks, especially if they have colour in them. Onyx does let you tune the Boox Go Color 7 display with specific colour mode controls. I stuck with the vivid option and I found that this added a little bit of extra pop to whatever I read or I viewed. You can fiddle or play around with this if you want to, but I thought this worked best for me in this default mode, or one of the default modes that you can choose. One thing to note here is that as this is an e-reader, the refresh rate is slow. Most e-ink panels are not designed to be refreshed multiple times per second. Instead, they will only refresh after interaction or movement. And because you might flick through an ebook or pages of a website quite quickly, there can be on-screen tearing or artifacts left behind. To alleviate this, some screen refresh speed modes can be tweaked to fully refresh between 1 and 30 on-screen taps. I think this just makes things a bit cleaner and clearer. And another thing to note here is that I highly suggest using the Regal mode, which is a default mode, if you read in lots of books such as graphic novels and manga. This just ensures the best quality with less ghosting and is optimized for content like comics and manga, as I noted. I like that the Boox Go Color 7 does let you set refresh modes on an app-by-app basis as well, because you can tailor this to the type of content you're viewing and it makes experience a little bit smoother depending on the apps that you want to use on this device. The normal mode though is going to be fine for most applications, but if you use websites and want to scroll through them, I find that the speed preset is probably best for you. Far be it from me though to tell you what to do with an Android tablet, but this is not designed for videos and I think you probably shouldn't watch them here unless you want background audio. However, the speed preset does make videos a little bit more bearable, even though I personally think they're quite unbearable. Without them, they do look even more choppy, even more out of sync, and I would say, for the most part, videos are terrible on this device. So Onyx opted to build on Android 12 for the base of the OS on the Go Color 7. Well, the reality is this isn't Android as you know it anyway. There is a heavy skin on top, and the UI baked in here is optimized specifically for e-reading. You can practically install any application from the Google Play Store though, as GMS is installed, but note that most won't offer the seamless experience that you probably used to. Android does actually sometimes hinder the experience here, but downloading any third-party app to read is where I think the Boox Go Color 7 does shine over other e-readers out there. It means you can grab content from the many different places or the myriad places instead of just one limited store. Accessing my entire Amazon Kindle library and limited Google Play Books libraries has been really seamless and made the experience a lot more enticing. While I wouldn't suggest trying a third-party launcher, you can use one if you want to, although I wouldn't suggest doing this as it's difficult to get back to that default launcher easily if you set it to something else. The Boox launcher is simple, it's easy to navigate, and because of that, I've stuck with it. I've enjoyed using the Naviball feature, which is a floating menu that helps you get around the UI quickly, but there are lots of other gestures that you can use to quickly access quick settings, the display and app optimization settings as well here. There are volume buttons on the side, you may have noticed these, and these can be programmed to do things like switch pages or scroll in specific applications. But I must admit, I haven't been able to get this to work correctly with the Kindle application specifically. I do hope this is an issue that can get fixed with software updates, as the buttons, they're really nice and clicky, and switching pages with every single app would be good, especially if you are an avid reader like I am. The only downside to Onyx's approach to Android here is there are a few bits of bloat baked in, if you can call it that. There's an AI assistant application, which I don't know if it is powered by ChatGPT, but it lets you ask questions like you would with Gemini or ChatGPT. It seems a bit pointless as you can just install those aforementioned LLMs anyway from the Google Play Store. And while I didn't use the option, I do like that you can access cloud storage connections that lets you link services like Google Drive. So if you have a big library of files, be those ebooks and all that kind of content, you can just add them this way rather than search around or have to manually drag them across while plugging into your computer. Another mini annoyance I found was the lack of Wacom pen support on the Boox Go Color 7. That means there's no sketching or writing unless you do actually go and stump up the extra cache for the larger Boox Go 10.3. That bigger e-ink tablet though doesn't support colour, so you're ditching one benefit just for pen support if you want to make notes. You can make colour notations or highlights in Boox though, which I think is nice if you are adding notes to some of your documents. So there is a little bit of a swings and roundabouts kind of attitude to the way colour is handled and the fact you can't make notes. For viewing purposes, you can also adjust margins, the text formats, there's lots of fonts pre-installed, and the size of the font as well if you want a more consistent reading experience or viewing experience. There is a text-to-speech option here, and I think it's fine if you like or need to use it, but the speaker's pretty awful. Unless you end up connecting to Bluetooth earbuds, I'd say you probably wouldn't want to do so, as I found the audio is really tough because it sounds hollow and tinny simultaneously. I'll leave a sample of the speaker audio if you want to have a listen to yourself. You let me know what you think down in the comment section below.
First, it's worth giving a bit of context here. In late 2021, Google made a pretty bold move in the world of smartphones by
Another thing to note with the Boox Go Color 7 is that the battery installed here actually isn't that big. It's actually quite small at 2,300 mAh. To prevent regular Android apps from ruining the lifespan of that small battery, you can actually set apps to freeze in the background or clear from the device memory after a preset amount of time. I'm not sure what this is set by default, but I actually set this as 7 days, which does seem a long time, but I must admit, in tandem with the low power e-ink display, this seems to eke out days rather than hours of usage from this tablet. The screen will power down after 15 or so minutes of non-usage, so that will save even more power, and the sleep mode can be tweaked if you do want to adjust that as well. I found that reading for around 2 hours per day, which is my average, between an hour and 2 hours anyway, I was charging the actual tablet itself every 5 to 6 days. I thought that was pretty impressive, but I did find the USB-C port placement a little bit confusing from where it is, but it is what it is. I thought that around 30 to 40 minutes on charge would get me back up somewhere around that 100% mark, and then I was ready to go for another few days. I think one of the things you need to know about this device period though is that unlike its bigger brother the Go 10.3, the Go Color 7 is an e-reader device first and foremost, It lacks that note-taking capability, but I think it excels as a multi-purpose e-reader and written content consumption everyday carry device, even though that is a mouthful. This is not an Android tablet, and I don't think it outright claims to be, but it is an excellent Android-powered e-reader, and I have actually already started carrying it with me every single day. I do think it's pricey at $250 or $290 with that magnetic flip case, but if you want to be free of the somewhat closed Kindle ecosystem, then I think the latest Boox tablet definitely has you covered. I really do highly recommend it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this look at an interesting Android e-reader. If you have any questions, drop them down below. I'll try and answer as many as possible. It is available now in a couple of colours, and I do think could be that perfect alternative to a regular tablet if you just prefer reading. You don't want any of the other entertainment aspects. Maybe you can listen to podcasts on this as well, which is something you can do with Bluetooth, but I just want to say a big thank to the channel members on screen now. We love you, you power us through and help us create content on this channel. Cheers for everybody else for watching though, and I will speak to you later.